The season is nearing an end. We're about to get into play-in territory, and the play-in has been a very controversial topic to talk about because some people love the idea, other people's don't. So just recently, LeBron said that whoever came up with the idea should be fired. Luka and Mark Cuban did not like the play-in at all. And the format of the play-in is that the 8 seed is going to face the 7 seed. Whoever wins that game is going to be the 7 seed. And the 10 seed faces the 9 seed. Whoever wins that game faces the loser of the 8 seed versus 7 seed. And whoever wins the matchup between that one is the 8 seed. So the 10 seed and the 9 seed have to win 2 games. Whoever the 7th and the 8th seed are, they only have to win 1 to get into the playoffs. So what are your thoughts overall on the play-in? I know that you didn't like it at first, so I don't know if you changed your opinion on that.
No, I just think like teams who are 500 shouldn't be in it. You know, you look at the teams like the Wizards, and I know they're fighting hard and they're fighting late, but I feel like in a situation, I think it should be situational. You know, in a situation where teams are very close, like say for example, us 3, we all have our teams. Your team is 48 and 35. Your team is 47 and 36. My team is 45 and 34. I think that would inquire playing because our records are so close. But in a situation where records aren't that close, I don't think a play-in deems any purpose because you were garbage for most of the year, and the fact that you picked it up at the end, you shouldn't get rewarded for that.
I'm going to tally on what he said. I believe that it could be a little bit of a stretch to make it a 10-man team, but at the same time, you look at the teams that are going to make it in. You have Golden State with Steph Curry. You have the San Antonio Spurs, which were a dynasty until they all kind of, dispersed or retired or whatever it may be. But you have teams that have fan bases that are big for the NBA. You have the Washington Wizards, who are right now on a tear. They're entering in a hot streak, and right now I believe they can counterpart with anybody that's in the play-in. I think it's great for the NBA to add more fan bases into the playoffs, give it a little bit of juice that it was missing from earlier, because back then the AFC would probably be locked in maybe with 7 games left, and you would have a lot of players resting, where now as you have 2 other teams with maybe 2 potential teams playing in, you have a lot of teams now that are actually fighting for something. Now the back end of the season is actually more meaningful, and I think with that going forward, I think it's going to be a lot more productive for the NBA.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I would think that you would love the play-in because your team went all in at the trade deadline, getting Nikola Vucevic, you're a Bulls fan, Riv, to try and get into the play-in and hopefully get a playoff spot. So I would think it would be great for you guys because most of the time you don't have a chance to get in the playoffs.
Let's be realistic. Nobody wants to see us in the playoffs. Nobody wants to see the Spurs, the Warriors. Let's be honest. Everybody only wants to see Steph, Pelicans.
And Draymond.
Nobody wants to see that.
I'm
going to be honest with you. Everybody wants to see Zion and the Pelicans just because it's Zion. Like, I feel like if this was like remember back when this, like, in the West when it was like 9-10 teams that had about 40 plus. Like if this was around that time, I feel like the play-in would have been that moment. And I feel like you can have it, but it's like situations. Like Sebastian said, yeah, obviously it's gonna bring more meaning for other teams late in the season. It's gonna be more intense. Like you see the Lakers are trying to push, you see Dallas is trying to push, Portland is trying to push because that means something. But at the same time, I feel like some teams don't really necessarily deserve to be in. I think they're just in it because they have that one guy that's, box office TV and that they need it for the money. I think some teams honestly, genuinely don't deserve to be in the playoffs because they've just been bad most of the year.
Now, I'll counterpart you with this. What would you think about Washington? You said it's situational. Right now, they're on a tear right now where they're just terrorizing everything. Westbrook is playing back to his MVP self.
Yeah.
What would you say in that situation where if he gets into this play-in and he takes Washington into the actual playoffs, then it makes sense as why the play-in is a factor.
And also to go on that point, Washington has been injured the entire year. So
that is true.
The play-in is also helpful for teams that maybe they're not as bad as their record shows because they have been hampered with injuries the entire year. And let's be honest.
But wait, Atlanta's been hampered with injuries.
Okay, yes, they have. But they also have more depth than Washington as a whole.
But are we going to play the injury excuse? Every team gets injured.
Yes, but we know that Atlanta would not be in this position if it were not for that coaching change. Scott Brooks is a bad coach. So, to be fair on that. I'm just saying, are we really going to say that there's a massive difference between the 10th and 7th seed or the 10th and 8th seed. I mean, regardless of who gets in between the 8th or 7th seed, we both know they're going to lose in the first round most likely. So if you can't win one game to get into the playoffs, do you really deserve to be in the playoffs? Like you just have to win one game
with home court.
But that's like one game. We know in the NBA you can lose at any moment. You know, you can walk in and have a bad day and lose to a bad team. I mean, the Nets full strength lost to the Cavs twice, but we don't care about it because we know when it really matters they would destroy them. One game can be
also
a defect.
Okay, that's true, but I'll also say there's a difference between knowing it's a whatever regular season game versus knowing the Nets versus Cavs. The Nets have to win to be in the playoffs. They would have blown out the Cavs.
That's true. But
even if Sexton would have got hot, like they would have tried to lock him up.
That's true. I don't see a team that's like a 7th seed team that has 10 plus or 9 plus wins over a 10th seed team. I don't see them being in the same position. Like I'm looking at the Spurs. Why on earth should they be able to fight for a playoff spot? They've been bad as of late. In Washington, I understand they've been hot, but are we really going to reward them just because they've been hot as of late? I get it. They've been hurt, but let's be realistic. Every team has been hurt this year. This year has just been an injury-riddled season, and they just haven't been able to put it together.
I'll say this. Right now in the Eastern Conference, the difference between the 10th and 8th seed is 2.5 games.
Yeah.
The Heat would play the Hornets, and the Wizards would play the Pacers in the play-in games. Western Conference, the difference between the 10th and 8th seed is 2 games. The Blazers would face the Grizzlies, and the Warriors would face the Spurs in the play-in games. I mean, I think the play-in is a great idea because it gives a team an added incentive to not tank. We saw that example with the Bulls, and it allows teams who have dealt with injuries all year long to make a run and make the playoffs. And all around, I think this is just going to make basketball more competitive. We're basically getting a Game 7-like atmosphere with these play-in games walking into the playoffs right before the playoffs. We're getting great basketball to watch. I mean, it's going to drive up revenue. And I can understand that standpoint with, like, the players don't really want it because, yes, they did, fight all year to get that seeding. And an argument I see, thrown around there is that last year was different, right? Because they cut the season short, and that's why they did the play-in. But this year is a weird season as well. We only have 72 games, and fans aren't even in the arenas for the game. So, I mean, it's not like this season is totally back to normal. This is also a weird season.
And just to piggyback off that, right now, the Wizards and Raptors are currently playing, and they're the 10th and 11th seeds.
Does anybody over here want to see the Raptors?
But I'm just saying.
I want to see the Wizards.
So let me throw both of you a scenario. Toronto, say for example, they by some miracle they get a 10th seed. Say for example they have a great day, shoot the lights out, they get into the playoffs as an 8th seed. Is that really going to bring in more revenue to watch Toronto, who's been relatively bad all year?
They're going to get
swept. Yeah, same thing with the Spurs. If they get hot and just beat Portland and they just jump to a 7th, 8th seed, do we really want to see them versus the Suns or Utah, or do we want to see Portland in? Like,
I get it, but I'll give you another one. Westbrook. Do I want to see him in a playing game drop 30, 10, and 10? Yes, I do. Do I want to see Steph Curry against the Spurs in the play-in drop 40? Yes, I do.
I agree. I think certain teams you can do that.
I just believe, like, right now, if we're looking at the playing games right now, Heat versus the Hornets. Heat will win that.
No, we're
like,
not.
I don't care what happens.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's just one game. The Heat will win that game.
Yeah.
Wizards versus Pacers. I think the Wizards would beat them. And the Pacers are higher. I think the Pacers can beat them, but I think the Wizards will beat them.
I think Washington will beat them, and I also think they'll also get the 9th seed as well.
And then if the Wizards play the Hornets in the next playing game, who's going to win that? I would pick the Wizards, and I want to see the Wizards in the playoffs. That's just me personally. Yeah. Then in the West, Blazers versus Grizzlies.
I don't want to see San Antonio in the playoffs.
Okay,
I don't know about y'all.
No.
Let's just say the Blazers win that game versus Grizzlies. If the Warriors face the Spurs,
it can go either way.
I believe the Warriors would win, though.
I'm telling you, it can go either way.
I know it can go either way, but I think the Warriors would win.
Okay.
I'll say this. If the Spurs beat the Warriors, I think the Grizzlies will beat them. They will beat the Spurs.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes. But if it's the Warriors versus Grizzlies, that can go in either way because we know Steph could just, be hot and drop 50. But I would rather see that. Like, I would rather these guys earn their spots. Like, I know they played a long season, but you're just asked to play one more game to secure your spot, to win one more game. I don't think it's too much to ask. It's not like a whole play-in tournament. Like, it adds a sense of randomness to it. And I think the only people that are complaining about this are the players that are now in the position to maybe be in the play-in. Like, LeBron was not talking about this until he was a 6th seed and about to be the 7th. Luka and the Mavs were not talking about this until they were the 7th seed and about to be in the play-in. Like, if they had a top seed the entire year, they would not say anything about it. That's why the top teams have not said it. I haven't heard Chris Paul talk about it. I haven't heard Donovan Mitchell talk about it. I haven't heard anybody that's a top seed talk about this because they don't care if it's not affecting them.
Yeah, nah, I definitely get where you're coming from.
And the reason why I brought up the Raptors and Wizards is, one, because if right now we had the old current format, the Hornets are the 8th seed. They're 12.5 back of the number 1 seed. You have the Raptors that are 18 back. That's 6.5 difference or 5.5 difference. They're tanking. They're no longer playing any meaningful games the rest of the year. The fans are no longer intrigued in a sense. Right now they're in a game where they have a chance to get into the play-in with the Wizards. So right now today they're playing meaningful basketball. If this wasn't around, Toronto would not be playing meaningful basketball. They'll be Tampa on the beach the rest of the season. Yeah,
Malachi Flynn will be playing 50 minutes a game right about now.
No, he's ridiculous. Like, I think, I agree with you. I think like it warrants for some teams, obviously Washington, Warriors, the exciting teams. For teams that really we don't need to see, I think like certain aspects, it should be involved to playing. I think sometimes it could work. Sometimes in the East for right now, I think because 6 to 10 is so close, I think definitely the play-in should be good because Miami and Boston could be in the play-in in a couple days. So I think in the East it definitely should be used. I think in the West though, some teams I think the play-in, for teams like the Pelicans and the Spurs, it was just trying to get them in for revenue. Definitely the Pelicans trying to get them in just for revenue.
And they still have a shot.
Yeah, they do, which is crazy to me. But
San Antonio has lost 5 straight.
They suck.
So
really suck.
I just wanted to piggyback to one of the years that the play-in was not around. So 2018-2019 season, in the Eastern Conference, the Pistons made the playoffs as an 8th seed. The Hornets with Kemba were the 9th. And the Heat were 10th at 39-43. So would I have wanted to see the Hornets with Kemba over the Pistons? Probably. Then look at the Western Conference that year. The Clippers made the 8th seed with the, Lou Will, Harrell, and that team, Shea. The 9th and 10th seed were the Kings and the Lakers. So the Lakers with the healthy Braun, they missed the playoffs a year because Braun was hurt. Would I wanted Braun to get a chance to get in the play-in? Yes. The Kings, I wouldn't have wanted to be in the play-in. I would have wanted them to be in the playoffs, but I would have easily wanted LeBron and the Lakers to
do what?
To be in the playoffs over the Clippers.
To play who? The Warriors? They were going to lose in 4 games.
I mean, even if that's true.
But the Clippers, let's be real, the Clippers were a more exciting series than the Lakers would have been.
If Braun is there, no.
I don't even think the Lakers would have beat the Clippers in the play-in.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. They did have Brandon Ingram, Lonzo.
Yeah.
I mean, they had talent. Kuzma.
Clippers would have only had to need 1 game. I feel like they could have took him out.
In 1 game, LeBron versus the Clippers, I'll take LeBron.
I'll take LeBron too. But that's my thing, though. The Clippers worked hard all year for them to lose 1 game.
The Clippers deserve to be in.
Yeah, some teams deserve it.
But also, LeBron was hurt the majority of the year. I mean, if LeBron is not healthy, then the Clippers win easily. But that's my thing, too. Like, if you're a far superior team than the 9th and 10th seed, you should have no problem beating these teams. That's true. So, regardless, the play-in, I think, is a great idea because, if you're this good, then you should beat those teams. I think there are certain years where teams are so close that they do need a chance to make the playoffs, like the Suns with Goran Dragic when they were the 9th seed. They were half or 1 game behind making the playoffs in the West.
48 and 34, I believe.
Exactly, and they didn't even get a chance to make it.
That's where a play-in is warranted, that moment right there.
Yeah, and I think with the plan, I don't know if the plan is going to be here to stay. I hope it is. But obviously LeBron is asking for whoever made it to be fired. So we'll see, if they get fired or not, if this idea is going to be going to.
No, didn't Adam Silver do it?
He was a part of it, obviously.
Oh, yeah, it's quiet. LeBron don't got that much power.
Yeah, it's weird, though, because LeBron signed off on it before the year started.
Because they were 3rd seed.
Yeah, but he signed off on it before the year started. Now he's kind of switching his stance, whatever. We're all human. But
I don't think he expected the Lakers to be where they're at now.
He didn't at all. He thought they were going to be good.
Yeah, he thought they were going to be at the top of the food
He
chain.
didn't think AD was just going to be playing GT every other day on live stream.
Killing Curry.
Crazy.
That was
He
ridiculous.
has one win against Curry.